There are battles in life that are loud, obvious, and easy for the world to understand. And then there are the quiet ones, the silent wars fought inside a mind that refuses to stay still. This story begins with that quiet battlefield, the place where attention slips, thoughts scatter, focus dissolves, and the world feels like it's always running faster than you can keep up. For some people, losing focus isn't just a bad habit or a lack of effort. It's a constant tug of war between intention and distraction. A war that no one else ever sees. And the person fighting it is left wondering why something as simple as holding their attention feels like gripping smoke with bare hands. Most people never notice this struggle. They see someone start tasks with determination, only to drift minutes later. They see half-finished plans, scattered ideas, forgotten goals. But what they don't see is the effort behind every attempt. They don't see the mental exhaustion that comes from trying to rein in a mind that runs in every direction except the one you want. They don't see the guilt that forms after another day ends with less progress than hoped. They don't see how much that person cares, how badly they want to stay focused, to be consistent, to be sharper, stronger, better. It isn't laziness. It isn't indifference. It's a silent storm no one else understands. Inside that storm, something else forms. Self-doubt. Not because the person lacks ability, but because repeated failures begin to sound like truth. The voice in their head whispers that maybe they're just not built for consistency. Maybe they're not meant for progress. Maybe they're destined to fall behind. And that voice grows louder when the world throws simple advice their way, the kind of advice that feels like an insult even when meant with kindness. Just focus. Just try harder. Just stop getting distracted. They hear those words and wonder why their mind doesn't work the way others claim theirs does. Yet even in all that chaos, there is a spark inside them. A small, persistent fire that refuses to die. It's the same spark that lights up when watching popular creators put together their incredible videos, knowing how much effort and teamwork they must put in behind the scenes. That spark whispers something different, that greatness is still possible, that consistency can be learned, that even a scattered mind can become powerful with the right guidance, that attention, like a muscle, can grow stronger. The story begins in the chaos, but it does not stay there. Because every battle, even the invisible ones, has a turning point. A drifting mind never feels like something that happens in a moment. Instead, it feels like something happening all the time. Thoughts tug in different directions, pulling attention away from the present, away from the task at hand, away from the goals that matter most. 1 second, the person is focused. The next, they're lost in an unrelated memory, a random idea, a sudden impulse. Even if they bring themselves back, the cycle repeats. That loop forms a pattern, and that pattern becomes a weight. They try to hold on, but the mind slips, rebels, wanders. This wandering isn't aimless, though. In the mind of someone struggling with attention, distractions flare like bright lights, impossible to ignore. A sound, a notification, a passing thought, a worry, a memory. a new idea. Each one feels urgent, demanding attention instantly, even when logic knows it isn't important. But logic isn't what controls the moment. Impulse does. The person doesn't choose to drift. They're pulled. And the more they fight it, the harder it becomes to stay grounded. But something deeper lies underneath. The fear of being misunderstood. Because from the outside, people assume drifting means not caring. They assume forgetting means not trying. They assume inconsistency means laziness. But they couldn't be more wrong. The drifting mind cares deeply. It tries relentlessly. It wakes up each day with hope, with motivation, with the intention to stay on track. But it's hard to fight your own thoughts, especially when they move faster than you can follow. Even so, the drifting mind has a strength that often goes unnoticed. Its chaos is also its creativity. Its wandering is also its curiosity. Its unpredictability is also its imagination. This mind might struggle to stay still, but it never struggles to dream. And buried inside that dreaming is the potential to build something extraordinary. The kind of passion, intensity, and vision that only comes from a brain that sees the world differently. But first, the person must learn how to take control of the drifting instead of being controlled by it. The consequences of a weak attention span aren't dramatic or cinematic. They're subtle, quiet. They build slowly, stacking one on top of another until the weight becomes too heavy to ignore. Tasks pile up, deadlines slip, promises to oneself break. Small failures begin to feel like personal flaws. Days blur together, filled with half-started efforts and unfinished intentions. The person begins to lose trust in themselves, unsure whether they will follow through on anything they plan. This loss of trust is one of the darkest consequences. When someone stops believing in their ability to act, they stop trying. Or they try with hesitation, anticipating failure before they begin. That anticipation becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It eats away at confidence, discipline, drive. And worst of all, it creates a distance between who they are and who they know they could become. And yet, even in that distance, there remains a longing to be better, to be sharper, to break the cycle. A longing to be the version of themselves they imagine when watching creators push through challenges and execute their ideas with precision, just like the dedication you see from these creators with every video they create. That longing is powerful. It keeps the person from giving up completely. But longing without direction becomes frustration, and frustration becomes exhaustion. This exhaustion doesn't come from physical effort. It comes from mental repetition, trying, failing, restarting, drifting, remembering, forgetting. A loop that feels endless. But even loops can be broken. Even storms can be calmed. The consequences are real, but so is the possibility of change. The mind is adaptable, changeable, trainable. And the moment the person realizes they have the power to reshape their patterns, the story begins to shift. Change never begins with a dramatic awakening or a sudden surge of motivation. It begins with awareness, quiet, simple awareness. The moment the person recognizes the pattern, not as a personal flaw, but as a mental habit, the ground begins to move beneath their feet. For the first time, they stop blaming themselves and start understanding themselves. They see the drifting not as failure, but as misdirected energy. They see the wandering not as weakness, but as a signal. This shift is small but meaningful. It's the moment they say, "I'm not broken, I just need a better system." And that thought opens a new door. When someone believes improvement is possible, they begin to look for it. They start experimenting with focus techniques, small routines, intentional effort. Not perfect routines, not rigid structures, just small adjustments that give the mind shape. The wandering still happens, but now they know how to bring themselves back without guilt. And this awareness brings a new type of confidence, not the loud confidence that comes from success, but the quiet confidence that comes from understanding. They start to recognize their triggers, their habits, their strengths. They begin to see their attention span as something they can work with instead of fight against. And slowly, they take their first steps forward. Rebuilding attention isn't quick, it isn't pretty. It requires consistency in the moments when consistency feels impossible. But day by day, the person begins to strengthen the parts of themselves that have been weak for so long. They start forming mental anchors, things that keep them grounded when their thoughts try to drift. They train the ability to pause, breathe, and return to the task instead of running with every impulse. They begin practicing focus in small doses, stretching it gradually like a muscle. The drifting still happens, but now it's easier to redirect. The forgetfulness still appears, but now they understand it instead of resenting it. The impulsive thoughts still spark, but now they don't feel as controlling. Everything starts to shift from chaos to structure, from overwhelm to clarity. What makes this process powerful is not perfection, but perseverance. Even when the mind wanders 100 times, they bring it back 101. That repetition forms new pathways, new habits, new strength. And the more they rebuild internally, the more their external world begins to change. As the person grows, they begin to see how many false beliefs they carried for years. Beliefs that said they weren't capable of consistency. Beliefs that said they lacked discipline. Beliefs that said they would always fall behind. These beliefs rooted themselves in the failures of the past, but they were never based on truth. They were based on misunderstanding, both from others and from themselves. Now, with progress forming, those beliefs begin to crumble. They start seeing evidence of their capability. They recognize that their mind isn't flawed, it's simply wired differently. They realize that their creativity, imagination, and intensity are strengths, not weaknesses. When properly directed, those strengths become unstoppable. They begin to rewrite the narrative they once believed, replacing old assumptions with new understanding. And this shift in belief doesn't just influence their attention span, it influences everything. Their confidence grows, their self-trust returns, their sense of identity strengthens. They begin to see themselves not as the person who always loses focus, but as the person who is learning to control their mind with intention. That identity change becomes one of the most powerful transformations in their journey. Momentum arrives slowly, then suddenly. At first, the progress feels small, almost invisible. But as days pass, those small moments begin to accumulate. The person starts completing tasks they used to abandon. They begin remembering things they once forgot. They stay grounded in moments that used to pull them away. Their daily life begins to feel less chaotic and more meaningful. This momentum builds confidence, and confidence builds consistency. For the first time, the person starts feeling a sense of clarity when they wake up. Their mind feels more organized, more focused, more capable. They begin looking at their goals with excitement rather than fear. They start dreaming again, not as an escape, but as a plan. And somewhere in this momentum, they feel inspired to create, to learn, to grow, to become someone they once thought was impossible. Watching their favorite creators or learning more from them only fuels that fire, reminding them that discipline and creativity can coexist, that effort and imagination can combine into something amazing. This becomes a reminder that their journey is leading somewhere grand. The mind that once drifted uncontrollably begins to follow direction. The person now knows how to guide their thoughts instead of being pushed around by them. When distractions appear, they can confront them without losing control. When impulses spark, they can breathe through them. When the urge to drift arises, they know how to anchor themselves back to the present. This control is not harsh or forceful. It's calm, steady, confident. It comes from understanding, not suppression. And because of that, the person feels stronger than ever. They no longer fear their mind. They no longer feel like a passenger in their own thoughts. They move with intention. They choose their direction. They reclaim the sense of ownership they once lost. And with every step forward, they become someone they can finally be proud of. By the end of this journey, the person with the once scattered attention span becomes someone entirely new. Not because they destroyed the old version of themselves, but because they finally learned how to guide it. They learned how to turn chaos into clarity. They learned how to convert distraction into discipline. They learned how to take the mind that once felt uncontrollable and transform it into a source of strength. But the most important transformation happens internally. They start seeing themselves not as someone who struggles, but as someone who overcomes. Not as someone limited, but as someone rising. Not as someone held back by their mind, but someone mastering it. And that shift in identity is what carries them into the future. In the end, their story isn't about attention. It isn't about distraction. It isn't about struggle. It's about resilience. It's about growth. It's about learning how powerful they truly are. And as they continue forward, inspired by creators who bring their ideas to life with dedication, like Shiloh and Bros, they learn one final truth. A drifting mind can still reach greatness. A scattered mind can still build remarkable things. And a person who refuses to give up will always rise.